Good morning, kitses. It's gonna be a late night Anu recording today. I was extremely delayed on getting this recorded the way I wanted to, but I hope all of you are having a fantastic morning. With the announcement of the Pokemon DLC, we did finally get some news that in the first part of the DLC, we're going to be getting Ninetales. So with Ninetales being one of my favorite Pokemon for obvious reasons, I'm so sorry, I'm trying to shake that late night voice. I decided that I would go ahead and try my hand at Paradox forms for both Scarlet and Violet. I actually picked Pokemon Scarlet, so I had to do it first. And then, during all of this though, since I got the DLC pre-ordered pretty early, I did get the Hisuian Zoroark with the charismatic mark. I unfortunately didn't get one with a timid nature, weeps, but I did start a shiny breeding hunt. You girls over here chilling at egg number 545. 545. I'm on box 19 officially. So hopefully by the time the next video comes out, I will have my little ghosty baby. Because it's just so pretty and I've managed to get it in a dream ball already. So I'm pretty excited. You kitsu should actually tell me below if you're able to get a if you're able to get a Hisuian Zoroark and you were able to get it regular or shiny, what kind of Pokeball would be the Pokeball that you keep it in? For me, I went ahead and got the Dream Ball, just because I find it's kind of matching the aesthetic, you know, pink on top, purple underneath, makes sense. That said, let's go ahead and dive into the art video today. So, I won't lie to you, I struggled with this a lot. Like, I couldn't think of a way to make the Paradox Ninetales from the past look like a Ninetales of the past and not just a Mega Ninetales. So I'm not quite sure if I still succeeded or not, and truthfully, for the longest time, I was stuck between the names on this Pokemon as well, be that Many-tailed or Painted Fox. So, the general consensus that I've gotten from my household is that the reason that these Pokemon are being called things the way they are, like Great Tusk or Screamtail or Fluttermane, have to do with the fact that it's children who are seeing these Pokemon for the first time. So, if I was a child, then I wouldn't look at the markings on the ancient variation of Ninetales. I would be drawn to its many tails. So, I think depending on who you ask, someone might call this Pokemon multi-tailed or many-tailed. Either way, I think the official name for this Pokemon is indeed many-tailed. And I've seen rumors going around that with the release of Walking Wake, these aren't really Pokemon from the past or future, but maybe just how we as people perceive what these Pokemon would be in those situations. So, that said, I'm still going to go ahead and work under the assumption that these are supposed to be past Pokemon and future Pokemon. So, for Many-tailed, it is a ghost fire typing because, right, of the fact that nine-tailed foxes in general, they're supposed to be like powerful, like they drift between realms and they can do a variety of things depending on the type of nine-tailed fox it is. I mean, there's the heavenly foxes, I believe they're called the Inari or the Tenko. I could be incorrect, but that's what I got whenever I looked into it a little bit. And then there are wild ones that are called Yako or Nogitsune, which I did a little bit for my own like persona. So the idea here is that Many-tailed is a very powerful fox-like Pokemon reminiscent of Ninetales for obvious reasons. So Many-tails would channel its otherworldly, ghost-like power through the beads that adorned its neck. The older that a Many-tailed was, the more beads it had around its neck. In many cases, the older that they were, you would even find some of these Many-tailed Pokemon with beads even being scattered through their fur. So, my running idea is that eventually, because humanity was scared of Pokemon before, as we did see in Legends of Arceus, is that eventually some people got the idea to hunt for the beads that Many-tailed adorned its neck and fur with. The idea being that if you got those beads, you would then be able to control Many-tailed. This obviously wasn't true, but that did not stop the poaching from happening, and as a result, the earliest ancestors to Ninetales ended up fleeing away from humanity. And as they fled, because they were hunted for these beads, they stopped creating them, eventually losing their ghost typing. But because they created these beads, they still had access to otherworldly abilities should the modern day Ninetales live long enough. So I think it's pretty neat. It ties up pretty nicely. Still explains why modern day Ninetales would have all of these abilities. I did want to again stick with the idea that normal, okay, when people think of Kitsune or Ninetales, they think of the face markings. They think of it being otherworldly and ethereal. So something I wanted to make different from present day Ninetales is I wanted to make more markings. But as you can see here, I'm actually really struggling with the colors because I still want it to have that kind of yellow beige in its fur, but I still wanted it to also be ghostly too. So, unfortunately, I am sorry here that we got that cut off on the flames. I'm going to show you that real quick. Boop. It didn't work very well, but it was unfortunately the best I could do. There we go. Sorry about that. This is a bigger file than I usually work on just because of all of those tails. But no, you can see where I was struggling. I really wanted the colors to kind of blend together with the front of Many-tailed being the focal point. It's also important to note that in lore, these beads, since they were otherworldly, ghostly, that the Pokemon would channel its power through, would exude that magic off of the bead itself. In fact, many trainers to this day probably have a bead somewhere passed around in their heirlooms somewhere, I'm quite sure. It's a sad thing, but I wanted it as close to what would make sense realistically as possible, even if Pokemon is not very realistic. Here you can see me figuring out where I wanted to put the other beads that would have been scattered through Many-tails, and up settling on like the base of the tails, kind of like at a crown. Um, Cause it's just like something I've noticed with Koraidon and Walking Wake and some of the other prehistoric looking Pokemon is that adding some like spikes or some feathering seems to really does the trick. So we're about to wrap up here, and we are actually about to switch over to the the Violent Future Pokemon. This Pokemon, I struggled with this name for a while, though not its design. The design came a lot easier to me than Ninetales. This Pokemon I called Iron Foxfire, just because of the fact that we all know that Kitsunes usually have the ability to make Foxfire. Um, let's see. Originally, I was considering a different name, but I did want to keep the Kitsune theme going. Now, given that I don't have Pokemon Violet, it's actually Mori who has Pokemon Violet. I don't know how their Pokedex entries typically work. What I do know, however, is that all of the Pokemon in future Dex entries are called Iron, so this is why we have Iron Foxfire. Iron Foxfire is also another dual type. Give me a second. It is a steel fire typing, which is an interesting combination because with Flash Fire, it no longer has the steel super weakness, basically. It does, however, have the chance for that ability to be swapped out for Quark Overdrive, which I know is a thing. So, it really depends on how lucky you are, I guess. For Iron Foxfire, something I wanted to make different here is that I wanted its body to not be so terribly sleek, because this Pokemon's, like, again, with the otherworldly nature, is basically not completely, like, confined in this new form. Its body seems to constantly shift, ready to change its appearance in a moment's notice. And as you'll see later, is in the black areas that I've marked underneath the iron bits of its body, they actually contain flames that drive the Pokemon's inner heart. As for the tails and the mane, I decided that instead of making them completely iron or steel, as is so popular with the future Pokemon, is that I wanted them to be kind of like holographic, like solid, like holographics. And I did struggle with that, because it's just like I'm not sure terribly where to like pull from an inspiration for that. I know the original idea I'd gotten was I cannot remember her name for the life of me, but I believe she was I think it was Aya from KDA, League of Legends? Ivory, my bad. I really liked the music video they came out with where her tails looked like kind of crystally but like holographic. So I did try to mimic that here with Iron Foxfire. So the interesting thing about Iron Foxfire is that it seems like, because I've seen some different dex entries, it seems like the purpose of this Pokemon was to be able to act as a type of perimeter-based security system, in the fact that this Pokemon had the ability to peer somewhat into the future. Oop. And as a result, because of its flames, it was able to intimidate the intruders before they got into somebody's home. Now, wild Iron Foxfire, they typically are pretty hard to find, and again, they don't really interact with humans all that much. Oh goodness, I've been rambling for a while. I finished my thing. But no. Iron Foxfire is also known as the the virus fox Pokemon, in the aspect of not only is it a good security counter for its ability to peer into the future via flames, it also has the ability to hack into other people's firewalls. So, if you're a hacker, you might want to consider getting Iron Foxfire. That said, let's get a better look at these two Pokemon. So you'll have to pardon me because these are like way bigger than my normal stuff. So this is a better look at Iron Foxfire. I got it up close a little bit more. And then here's a better look at, gosh, their tails are they're huge, is many-tailed. So again, this is a bit bigger than what I wanted compared to for my overlays, but you can absolutely tell that that many-tailed is a lot bigger than Iron Foxfire. Iron Foxfire is actually only a bit smaller than the present day Ninetales, not by much. So, I do hope all of you enjoyed today's Paradox Pokemon attempt. Who knows, I might try this again in the future. I mean, considering that I'm rooting for a shiny Hisuian Zoroark, I might try my hand at a Paradox version of Zoroark here in the future. That said, let's get back to our just chatting screen today, Kitsus. Again, I'm so sorry I was so rambly. This was like something I've been focusing on all week, and it's just something that's been so like exciting for me. I know I didn't get to talk too much about Iron Foxfire, so I will add a few more things here just because I didn't get to talk as much about them as Many-tailed. I did say that Iron Foxfire is a good security measure as well as good for hacking. This does come from the otherworldly nature that this virus fox Pokemon is basically like. It's called a virus because it can essentially predict the next movements of its opponents. It's not a typical thing that you would see with Ninetales, but again, since we're trying to emulate more on the, not emulate, emphasize more on the Kitsune factor, I really wanted to also play off of the, whole firewall thing, firewall, firefox, so, it's kind of corny, I know, but I hope that all of you enjoyed my ramblings today. You guys have a fantastic day, Kitsus, and I will see you guys next time, and hopefully next time I will have my shiny Hisuian Zoroark. I am trying so hard. Please don't take 1,000 eggs. Please, please, please wish for my luck in this endeavor. That said, bye-bye!